As parents of someone with autism, we are pretty comfortable at this point with the general narrative that technology and people with autism go together really well. In fact, even on the National Autistic Society website, the opening sentence on their page about using technology guidance for parents is, using technology such as computers, games and other devices is a popular leisure time activity for autistic people. But on the flip side of that, we're also forever seeing the dangers of games, the dangers of social media, and how awful technology is for everybody in other sections of the media. And we're often left in this situation where we don't know what the best to do is. We don't know what's right for our kids. We don't know how much is too much. And we just get very, very confused with the whole thing. Which is where today's parenting autism video comes in, because we're going to be exploring the issue of children with autism and technology, and getting into a bit of a Q&A and hopefully answering some of the questions that you might have on this topic. Hello folks, and welcome back to another video in our parenting autism series. You can find a link to the playlist for this series just up there. I'm Kevin Chapman, and in this series we are aiming to go through lots and lots of the issues that face us as parents of children with autism and just tackle them, get stuck into these topics, drill down, work through some of the issues around each of these topics, answer some of the questions that you guys have had, and hopefully shed a little bit more light on some of the areas of concern that we have as autism parents. If that sounds like something you're interested in, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn your notifications on, and make sure you don't miss out on any of the future videos in this series. And of course, check out that playlist and all my social media bits and bobs as well for the videos that we've done previously. So, technology. Oh, this is probably, if we were to do a word cloud of all of the comments we get on all of our videos, technology or some derivative of technology like iPad or tech or YouTube or something like that is going to be pretty high up on that list. We are asked about technology a lot because anyone who's spent any time watching our daily vlogs will know that Andy and his tech are very, very rarely apart. If he's sat in the house, generally he will have his iPad in front of him, or he will have his 2DS in front of him, or he'll be playing on his PlayStation or Xbox or some kind of game system. If we're out and about, he'll always have his camera in his hand. Failing that, it will be his 2DS, maybe even his iPhone, but he is never far from a piece of tech. And that concept seems to bother a lot of people. A lot of people seem very uncomfortable with just how much he uses tech, how much he relies on technology, how much of a part of his life that it is. I think our view on it as a topic is probably a little bit biased because both me and Anna are very tech savvy, tech heavy people as well. We're also rarely seen without some kind of technology, whether it be our phone or a laptop or an iPad or some kind of games device. And that's pretty much where Andy's got it from. It's not just because Andy's autistic, therefore he has a natural desire to always be using technology. He's kind of just grown up around it. And because technology works in a very logical, predictable way, it's then become something that is easier for him to get a handle on than something like, for example, Dave the dog, where you can never be quite certain exactly how he's going to react to a situation, or it's more predictable than kicking a football around because you're never quite sure where the ball is going to go. A computer or some kind of computerized device, if you give it a certain input, will always give you the same output. And for Andy, that's incredibly comforting because one of the things he uses his tech for most is repetitive behaviors. So he'll often, when he's out and about, he'll film something that is interested him or concerned him, or maybe something that he wants to understand better. He'll film it, and then when he gets home, he'll watch it over and over and over and over again until he's done with it. And that's not something that's just new since he's had his own YouTube channel. He's not just recording for that. He now loves the fact that all of the stuff that he films is archived on his YouTube channel through Andy's eyes so that he can go back to it when he wants to go back to it. But This is a practice he's had since he was very, very young. It predates his 2DS, which is what he always used to do. On his 2DS, he used to film on constantly. At the end of every day, he'd review his footage and then delete it all. We've talked about that on the vlogs before. Before that, he had an iPod Touch that he did exactly the same thing with. And he would just, whenever he was out and about, he would kind of view the world through a camera lens. And then when he got home, view it again and again and again as many times as he needed to either get over the anxiety or to relive a happy experience or to understand something that he didn't understand when he was living through it the first time. So we see a whole load of benefits for Andy of using technology as much as he does, because if he didn't, I firmly believe he would find the world a lot more difficult to understand and a lot more challenging to be a part of. So technology for us has been a huge positive. Balancing that with the fact that my career background before I was a YouTuber, I was a computer science teacher. My degree is in computer science. Anna has a digital media qualification as well. We know our stuff. So at the same time as allowing him to get all the benefits out of technology, we're also capable of keeping him safe. So he doesn't, and probably never will, have any kind of social media. His online games and or his games that he's got that would ordinarily allow someone to go online, he's not allowed to do that. In fact, most of his devices, aside from his iPad, none of his other devices are even connected to the internet, even though in theory they would be able to. And the only reason his iPad is because he likes to use YouTube. He doesn't use any of the messaging services on there. We've actually tried to get him to, because we have a family iMessage thing, because we all have Apple devices that he is included in. The messages pop up on his iPad and he just completely disregards them and has never once replied, even though he could. If he wanted to, he has the ability to type a reply. He can read, he can write. He's just got no interest in doing it. So communication on these devices for him, not interested. They're very much an entertainment and education device for him. And we think there's a whole load of positives. But as ever with these videos, it's not just about me telling you what I think. We want to get in as soon as possible into the questions that you guys have sent in on this topic. So some of these are sort of generic to the topic itself, and some of them are very, very specific to Andy. If you want to be able to get involved in asking questions on future videos in this series, then you need to be subscribed to the channel, notifications on, so that you can keep an eye on that community page, because usually early to midweek, sort of Monday, Tuesday time, I'll post up the following week's topic to give everybody plenty of time to answer their questions for that weekend's episode. This week, at the time of recording, we've had over 60 comments, so over 60 questions. So obviously it's not been practical to include every single question in this video. So as ever, if we haven't managed to get to your question, my apologies. Hopefully we'll get to yours next time, but we've tried to focus around the ones that people have thumbs up the most. So again, when you're looking through the community page, deciding what questions you want to ask yourself, if you see one that you particularly like, give it a thumbs up. It moves towards the top of the list. That's then making it that much more likely to be answered in the following week's video. So without further ado, let's have a sip of coffee and get into these questions. So Crystal says, what piece of technology do you think has helped Andy the most in his life? I think the thing that has helped him the most probably isn't the thing that you would expect. I think you're probably all expecting me to say iPad. I actually think the thing that's helped him the most has been all the camera devices that he's had over the years, from his iPad through his 2DS onto his current camera, because the iPad is great for entertainment and great for finding out new information, but the thing that actually helps him cope with day-to-day living is the cameras. It's recording what he does during the day and watching it back until he's comfortable with it. So I think without the ability to use some kind of digital camera, which realistically, if he was born 10 years before he wouldn't have been able to do that. And I'm not sure how he would have coped with the world, because he's viewed the majority of his life through a camera lens and then reviewed it and reviewed it and reviewed it. So I think it's been incredibly helpful to his development, and I would hate to see that taken away from him. Is Andy's dialect affected more by the way people speak in YouTube videos or the way people speak in his own life? I think the biggest impact on Andy's dialect is actually his school, because he doesn't say, there are certain words that he says in a way that neither me or Anna or any of his family or anyone on YouTube maybe would actually say them. He says them very much in the kind of London export accent that you tend to get around this part of Lincolnshire, where an example being Andy, when he's talking about that green stuff that grows in the garden, will say grass. Now I will always say grass. Anna says grass. Most of the videos he watches on YouTube are American, and I'm pretty sure Americans also say grass. So pretty much everyone he's exposed to at home or on the internet is all going to say grass, but he'll say glass Glass and glass are another one, but he'll say grass because that's what he's taught to say at school. So I think the biggest influence, as with most kids, I think probably is where they go to school. I remember when I was younger, a friend of mine went to live in America for a year, and they came back with a really strong American accent because they'd attended American school for a year, and that's how their teachers were teaching them to speak. What's Andy's favourite thing to do on his iPad? He uses it for just about every purpose you can imagine using an iPad for. I would imagine if we were to set some kind of app timer on there, the most used app by a long way is YouTube. Whether that's watching back his own videos or watching whatever his latest obsession is, as soon as he's interested in something or as soon as he notices something that he likes the look of, his first instinct would always be, let's get to YouTube and find out more about it. Just like me, I do a very similar thing. It's either YouTube or Wikipedia for me. But he'll just go straight for YouTube. So if there's a game that he wants to play, he'll go to YouTube to find out more about it. And then he'll show Anna the YouTube video to get her to buy the game for him. If there's a place that he's going to or wants to go to, he'll go and watch YouTube videos about it. So YouTube and just consuming YouTube content is by far and away the thing he uses it most for. But he also uses it for a lot of other stuff as well. He's got a lot of educational software on there, stuff that we got him when he was off school for a year and a half, but he still uses now. So quite regularly he'll just be he's got this handwriting app that he likes to use where you're tracing the shapes of the letters and spelling out words, and it gives him feedback on how well he's doing. He really enjoys that one. I think anything that has built-in feedback is something that he responds really well to. It's the kind of stuff that he uses at school. He plays games on there as well, and they will vary from time to time what games he's really into, and also location to location. If he's out and about, he really likes to play Peggle and Chuzzle, which are puzzle games, but he doesn't really play stuff like that at home. But the main thing is he uses it for video, but games and educational stuff as well. He has very, very rarely watched TV on there. When his TV first broke, he would watch a little bit of the iPlayer on there for his BBC, CBeebies programmes, but he doesn't do that very often. But it's mainly a TV and gaming device with some education thrown in as well. Do you think Andy understands and knows how to be safe when using technology? No. I don't think he does, and that's something that as parents we have to control really carefully. One of the more popular videos on this channel, actually, which I'll link at the top to again, it's called something along the lines of I had to take his iPad, and we had an ongoing battle which still rears its ugly head from time to time, where the family safety features on YouTube just don't work. So he even though he's using YouTube as a 14-year-old, which should have the age-appropriate settings on there, he can still access just about any content that he wants because it's at the discretion of the creator to put an age rating on it, and obviously no one does. We've tried getting him to use the YouTube Kids app and he just won't use it, which is the most common feedback we get on that video. Just get him to use YouTube Kids. Yeah, we tried. He won't. He insists on getting YouTube back again. So he will occasionally stumble across a video that is inappropriate, and they're not inappropriate in the way as he's not going out there and accessing 18 rated games or accessing porn or anything like that. It's stuff that on the face of it should be age appropriate for him, but the person who's made the video has stopped it being appropriate. So there's an example of one with the big one from that video was Dreamcast, where the person using the Dreamcast was just opening and closing the disc drawer. Now it sounds like such a completely harmless video for anybody to watch, but and for like the first 5 or 10 minutes of this video it is completely harmless. It's just this person setting up a Dreamcast, opening and closing the drawer. It's all completely fine, it's all completely harmless. But then about 10 minutes in it just turns into a tirade of swearing and foul language that caught us completely unexpected the first time we heard it. And he doesn't understand why he's been allowed to watch the first 10 minutes of the video, but then has to stop immediately as soon as it starts swearing. He is getting to the point now where he does understand some words are bad, but he wouldn't self-regulate and stop himself from watching that kind of content. Likewise, if we were to put him on an MMO or something like that, or some kind of online multiplayer game, and there's other people there that he can interact with, I'm not entirely confident he would understand he was interacting with other people. I think it would be very easy for him to think it was all just part of the game, which could then lead him down the road of all sorts of potential online dangers. So we're really, really careful about what he can and can't do when he's online, and we are always watching him like a hawk when he's using his iPad. Do we limit how much time Andy spends using technology? We don't, and I think this is one of those things that we get criticism about more often than just about anything else, especially down in the YouTube comments. And it's not that we're too lazy to limit him, it's that we've made the conscious decision that I don't think he should be limited how much he uses technology. It's something that he enjoys doing. It's clearly his favourite thing, not just in so much as it's something that he enjoys doing, but it helps him to soothe when he's stressed. It helps with his anxiety. It helps with his understanding of the world. It helps him cope in difficult situations, and it stops him from doing things like eating the sofas and picking at the walls and being destructive. And there's so many benefits to him using technology, and it's not that he just sits there and does the same thing for 8 hours. He'll get bored of something and he'll move on to the next thing. Yes, it's probably not ideal for his eyesight that he's forever looking at a screen, and there are probably some problems attached to that. But you know what? I'm always looking at a screen as well, and I would be a massive hypocrite if I was to limit his use of technology but then use it constantly myself. And for better or worse, the nature of my job is that I am always on a screen. I'm either creating content, which involves me looking at a screen, or I'm editing content that I've already created, which involves me looking at a screen, or I'm interacting with the community related to that content on social media, which involves me looking at a screen. So I'm using technology constantly, Anna's using technology constantly. So in that circumstance, we would just be absolute hypocrites if we said to Andy, yeah, but you're only allowed to do it for 2 hours a day. Because there's no logic, no good reason behind that. Even if we were to take all his technology off him, and we have gone through spells of doing this, if we were to take everything off of him and say, right, you're going to go and play outside now, he would just refuse. He wouldn't go and play outside. He's got no interest in doing that. He would just sit there on the sofa, glaring at us, waiting for us to give him his stuff back. And he would do it quite politely and quite happily for hours, because as far as he's concerned, it's just something he has to endure to get back to doing what he actually wants to do. And I'm all about his independence and his personal freedoms. And if he wants to use his technology, why shouldn't he use his technology? I personally don't believe it's doing him any harm, and I see all of the incredible benefits that he gets from having access to technology. And yeah, I don't see any reason to limit it, other than like we don't let him use it in bed and stuff, because that's when he's supposed to be sleeping, or we don't let him take his iPad to the table when he's eating his food. So there are a few limits, but by and large, if it's a situation where we'd be able to go on our phones or go on our laptops or go on our iPads, of course he can as well. Do you think gaming and technology helps with the social skills of people with autism? I think it can. There are some fantastic apps out there that allow for communication where there are communication challenges. It's stuff Andy has used in the past. He doesn't use so much now, but he used to have this brilliant app that was... It was basically a traffic light system that he controlled, where he could press the coloured smiley face or sad face or indifferent face, and it was his way of communicating to us whether he was happy, not bothered, or sad with a situation. And there were other levels to it as well, but he never really moved past this one. He just liked to use it as a traffic light situation. So when he was really struggling with anxiety and really stressed out a lot and prone to meltdowns quite regularly, when he couldn't find the words to tell us that there was a problem, he could at least communicate, press the red sad face, there is something wrong, just leave him alone and let him get on with it. So that was a massive help to social skills and communication skills. But if he wasn't verbal or had a really, really limited vocabulary, there are fantastic apps out there that can help with that as well. So yeah, there's so many different applications of technology that can help with that side of things. And even stuff like the more cutting edge technology that can actually help teach real life social skills using things like VR. There are the event that I went to down in Cambridge earlier in the year, they were discussing applications where you can literally go into a virtual environment that simulates a conversation with another human being, and you learn to pick up on their body language and their facial cues and learn what's appropriate to say in what situations and what's not. So not only is there all the basic level stuff that Andy is currently able to take advantage of, but if we look 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, there's a whole load of extra stuff coming, and it's all going to be positive. Which links into the next question: what technology in the future would you like to see being created that could possibly benefit Andy in his adult life? The VR stuff I was just talking about, that could be massive for everyone, not just people with autism, but everyone. Being able to simulate and train in a situation before experiencing that situation for real could help with all manner of problems. But something really specific to Andy that I'm really encouraged by the current developments in, and really excited for when it can actually be applied and used to help him, is augmented reality rather than virtual reality. So augmented reality it's kind of like your Google Glass model, if you remember the Google Glass from a few years ago, or the Microsoft Hololens is another one that's currently being worked on. I'm sure future Kev will drop some pictures of these on the screen somewhere to show you what I'm talking about. But basically a pair of see-through glasses where you can still see the world, but it will then put some kind of overlay on there to help you interpret the world, incorporating with some kind of audio device as well, whether it's speakers or some kind of headphones. And something like that could be genuinely life-changing for Andy. The application of that I talked about when I was down in Cambridge, that could genuinely be the difference between independence and no independence for Andy in the future, is because he doesn't really have any concept of danger. I don't know if there's ever going to be a situation where I would be truly comfortable with him going out on his own and crossing the street, as an example of one thing. Whereas if he had an augmented reality headset on when he was out, and we trained him into, well, whenever you're crossing the street, you must always look both ways, because he'll do that. He'll look both ways and then cross anyway, regardless of whether there's something coming. So we haven't quite got to the point where he look both ways and then only cross if it's safe to do so, because it's that point that it's safe to do so. He can't judge how fast the car is going. He can't judge if he's got time to get across. Making that decision over whether or not it's safe to cross is a real challenge for him. But if he was wearing an augmented reality headset, that he would look both ways and then it would tell him safe, not safe. So simple, so easy to create something like that. And that sort of technology could exist today. It's just the cost of the actual hardware itself and probably the bulkiness of it, while they slim it down a little bit, that would be problematic. But the code, the software to do that, I could write that. It's relatively simple to create, and that's just one application of personal safety and personal independence that technology could lead to, certainly in Andy's lifetime. It's really exciting where technology could be going to help him out. Is technology used as a way to calm Andy down and distract him from different things, or does he just love his iPad so much? I think it's a little from column A and a little from column B. He absolutely loves the iPad. You can see that he loves the iPad. When his iPad broke, around about this time last year, it was on my last day of work actually. I'll link to that video. So goodness me, I'm linking to a lot of videos today, but I'll link to that video as well. My last day of work, when his iPad broke, and I got a phone call from Anna as I was on my way home saying that he just completely shut down. His iPad didn't work anymore, and he just completely closed in on himself, didn't communicate, didn't move, didn't talk, just kind of curled up into a ball and sobbed. And he was like that until we gave him the new one that we had to go and buy. He just couldn't comprehend getting through a day without his iPad. So yes, he absolutely loves it. And yeah, I guess that's probably addiction as well, but it's an addiction, as far as I'm concerned, to something that's massively beneficial to him. So it's not that much of a problem from my perspective. I'm going to get some heat for that down in the comments. I can feel that coming now. On the flip side of it, to answer the other part of the question, he absolutely uses it as a way to cope, a way to calm down. If he's in a really, really stressful situation, he'll watch a video or play a game that he associates with calmness, and it will calm him down and help him through that situation. If he experiences a situation during the day that really stresses him out, he'll watch it over and over again from the video that he's recorded until it doesn't stress him out anymore. So the next time he goes and experiences it, he's not as distressed by it. So it helps him massively with just coping from day-to-day life. But yeah, he loves it as well. It's his favourite thing. Right, I think this is going to be the last question. There are loads more that we could answer. There might be one more actually, because there's one more that's a little bit different. But they're starting to repeat themselves as I scroll through now. But this one's quite interesting. How much do you think YouTube affects Andy's life, and is it positively or negatively? I'm going to take that in probably both meanings that it could be taken. First one is obviously the fact that he is on YouTube. Does that affect his life? Yeah, it does. But I think it only affects his life positively. A lot of people sometimes make comments along the lines of, are you not afraid that by showing all aspects of Andy's life, you're opening up to being bullied? Now, he doesn't ever get in a situation in his life where he could be bullied. He's never on his own without some kind of adult supervision. He doesn't really have a social group that he's a part of. So bullying isn't really an issue. So that kind of removes a huge chunk of the potential negatives. And the positives so massively outweigh all of that stuff anyway, because if it wasn't for the fact that we are a YouTube family, I can't imagine how different Andy's life would be right now, because I would have to still be at work, which means he'd potentially still be refusing school. His anxiety might not have ever been resolved. He would just be massively struggling, like he was before we started doing YouTube and this became the thing that we did. But also he clearly loves being part of YouTube as well, because he watches back our old videos. I mean, if you think about it from the perspective of somebody with autism, Andy can look back at any day from the last year and a half of his life and relive that and go through those experiences again. So as an example, if we tell him, right, we're going to Legoland this weekend, as an example of somewhere that we've been, he'll go back and watch last year's Legoland video, or watch the video of the last time we went to Legoland, to prepare himself for going there. And that's such an important tool for somebody with autism. That's an amazing thing to be able to do. If we tell him we're going to Peterborough to go shopping, he will go back and watch the video of the last time we went shopping to remind himself of what goes on there, so he knows what to expect, which massively helps him with his anxiety. So that is incredibly useful for him. Plus, he loves it so much that he's now got his own channel and can now relive all of his stuff from his own perspective as well, which again, he wouldn't be recording those and wouldn't be watching them as much as he does if he didn't find massive benefit from doing them. The other side of it, I guess, is just YouTube in general, YouTube as a consumer, as a subscriber. And he uses YouTube constantly. Like I said earlier in the video, anything he's got any kind of interest in, the first thing he'll do is go to YouTube and find out more about it. So for him, as a tool for learning about the world, it's been absolutely beneficial. It's difficult for me to believe sometimes that YouTube is still only 13 years old as a piece of software, as a website. I can't imagine my life or his life without this website existing. It's insane. This one really is going to be the last question now, because I think it again ties into the answer to that previous question. So if you lived in the 1920s, how different would yours and Andy's lives be? I mean, they would obviously be very, very different, because I pay my bills using technology. Andy lives his entire life through the lens of technology. Yeah, I don't think Andy could cope with a pre-technology life, and I think that's actually reflected in how society as a whole used to handle people with autism as well, because putting a big dose of realism on this, if Andy was born in 1920, he would have been put in some kind of mental hospital. He wouldn't have been at home. He would have been in an institution, and he would have been treated horribly, and it would have been an awful life, and he probably would have died young. And it's horrible to think of, but I think we're now part of the first generation that's actually able to take not just autism, but the whole range of mental health is actually, we're still not there yet. It's still not perfect, but things are handled a lot better now. We have more understanding and more facility to help people than we ever have at any point in the past, and technology has played an absolutely massive part in that. But yeah, even not going to the extreme of 1920s, let's stick him in an institution. Even if he was born, I was born in 1982, if he was born, I grew up in a world without the internet, without mobile phones, without having a home computer. The only technology I had in my house was a Game Boy, a Nintendo Entertainment System, and we had a TV and VCR in the living room. I genuinely don't know how Andy would have coped in that situation. I guess he would have just got super obsessed with a Game Boy, but he wouldn't have had the ability to be able to film the world around him unless he got into like video cameras with tape in and rewound the tape. I guess that would have been an option for him, but we didn't have one of them in our house. They were crazy expensive. So I don't know how he'd have coped, but I am incredibly grateful that we don't have to find out the answer to that question, because he was lucky enough to be born when he was, and lucky enough to be born into a family, into a society where he's actually able to access that kind of stuff. So he's able to have an iPad, he's able to have a mobile phone, he's able to have games consoles, TVs. That stuff is here. He's incredibly lucky, we're incredibly lucky, and because of that, he's got a much higher quality life than he would have done if he had been born at any other time in history. And got to be grateful for that. It's so important. But we have run out of time now. I know this is already a much long, I say this every one of the videos in this series, it's already been a much longer video than I would normally intend to release. Hopefully you have found a lot of benefit from it, and if you have, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Let me know down in the comments as well if you have any further questions on this topic. I'm never against doing a part 2 on these deep dives on a specific topic, so we could always revisit this later on down the line if there's loads more questions that you've got, or share your experiences down in the comments as well, or of course use that comment section to suggest future topics for a parenting autism Q&A style video, because I really enjoy doing these. I think both me and you as a viewer get a lot out of these videos as well, so it's something that I plan on doing for the long haul. But I don't want to run out of topics, so let me know down in the comments what topics you'd like to see me cover in the future. Keep an eye on that community page early next week for next week's topic. I haven't decided what it is yet, so that will be where you find out first on there. And as I've said repeatedly throughout this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications, and thank you very much for watching.